Hello and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear stories and tips from real couples and wedding pros about love, life, and entrepreneurship. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest on the Wedding Dish Podcast, Sarah Alapin, and I am also the CEO of Photos from the Hardy and District Bliss. We do have our little French bulldog, Bud, sitting behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see he's going to have terrible tan lines from this sunspot that he is currently laying in. And before we get started, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, flag it, go back and check it out. We had an amazing conversation. I'm so excited about it. We were joined by Sarah from Honey Fund, and we were talking about all things honeymoon related. So definitely a super fun episode and travel. So, it's applicable even if you are traveling at any point. Thank you all for tuning into the Wedding Dish Podcast. Today, we are dishing with a relationship coach who transforms marriages with simple communication, connection, conflict resolution, and commitment strategies. The human behind Secrets of Happily Ever After. Monica Tanner, thank you so much for joining me on the Wedding Dish today.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun. I'm really excited. This is my favorite demographic because people think a lot about their wedding and not enough about what follows.
I agree. And I think it's, because wedding planning is so new and it's so big and you're learning something, we don't learn a lot of skills as adults in the same way that we learn through, going through school and everything. So wedding planning is a massive undertaking, but it is easy to lose focus on the actual marriage itself.
Oh, I cannot tell you how many brides and grooms I have talked to through the years who have learned so much about each other in the process of planning the wedding. They were like, whoa, this is not the person I was dating, right?
Yeah. Philippe found out that I absolutely hate planning.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, good to know.
It overwhelmed me in a way that I cannot even explain. And it made I had decision paralysis immediately.
Yes.
Well, today I am really excited about this conversation because there are so many myths or cliches about marriage that kind of masquerade as quote unquote good advice. And they come up so often when couples are getting engaged. Can we talk about some of these myths and what the actual...
Yeah, it's my favorite topic. Yes, because when you're getting ready to get married, it's like everybody has advice for you, right? At your shower, in the line, at your reception, everybody wants to tell you how to have a great marriage, right? And it's hard to sift out the good advice from the bad. And so that's what I did for my oldest son when he got married. I sat down to write him kind of a note about okay, here's all the things I need you to know because I've been married for 23 years and I work with married couples literally every day. I'm like, here's the things that might trip you up. And it turned really quickly from a letter into a full-on book. And
wow.
I tell you in the book, I tell you the bad marriage advice and then how to do it better, the communication skills that will help. So yeah, it's a good resource for couples who are thinking about getting married.
I did not know that was the history of your book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what a legacy.
I just remember when I was getting married, I was super nervous about it, right? I was like, oh, I want to have a great marriage. And all these older couples who, have these great marriages come through the line and they say these really cliche, things that you've heard for years. And I'm like, a lot of it just didn't work very well for me. So I wanted to give my son kind of a foundation, but also a buyer beware, these things will trip you up if you're not careful.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Okay, so let's dive into these cliches. I have a couple that come to mind immediately, but I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, give them to me. I'll see if they made it into the book.
Don't go to bed angry.
That's one of my favorites, right? Everybody says that because it's biblical. So especially if you're coming from some sort of religious background, people are going to say that to you. And if you really step back and think about it, do you really want to discuss things or try to come up with a solution when you are exhausted after a long day? And probably whatever started the argument was just because you were exhausted, right? Do
Yeah.
you want to be up at 2 in the morning trying to figure out like the meaning of life? No, that's terrible advice. I mean, don't let the sun set on your anger is like, you don't want to go a long period of time without discussing, right? But
Mhm.
I remember losing so much sleep over that horrible marriage advice because what would happen is my husband and I would be exhausted after a long day. We'd be picking on each other. We wouldn't agree about something. And then he would jump into bed, roll over, and immediately start snoring. And I'm sitting here going, he doesn't care. He doesn't love me. He's not listening to the advice. He doesn't even want to have a good marriage with me. He's going to get up and like totally walk out of this marriage. Like literally, I was panicking and spiraling into like worst case scenario until one day, several years into our marriage, I got really curious and really vulnerable, which, by the way, is one of my biggest tips and tricks to creating a great marriage is curiosity plus vulnerability equals creativity, right? So I got curious. I'm like, what is happening for you, Monica? Because seriously, this is ridiculous. Like I was up all night journaling, freaking out.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
because I was
You
like,
were really
just
freaking out.
sleeping. Like, right? Like he doesn't care. Like, what's the problem? Right. And so I like, realized that my conditioning, my history, my experience was that men leave women. That was like what I had seen. And so that was my biggest fear. And so for him to be able to just turn over and start snoring, I was like, he's going to leave me. Like he doesn't care. And so I remember getting really curious and then I got really vulnerable and I brought it up and I said, here's what happens to me when we are like not getting along and then you just go to sleep. I'm like, I panic, I spiral, I have all these thoughts. And he's like, oh, he's like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And I was like, okay. And he was like, okay. So, kind of together, we came up with instead of just like us not getting along and then he rolls over and goes to sleep, he can say before he rolls over and goes to sleep is, I love you. I'm not going anywhere. Let's talk about this in the morning. And I was like, all right, that could work. It was just enough to be able to calm my nervous system enough to be able to get some sleep. And now, 23 years later, I know without him even having to say that in the morning, he's going to roll over, he's going to wrap his big, strong arms around me, and he's going to say, I'm so sorry we fought last night. What do we need to talk about? Right. And most of the time, I'm like, I don't even remember. Let's just get up and have a great day. Right. Or sometimes I'll be like, you said that thing and it was really mean. And he'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, right. So it's like, let's talk about it with fresh perspective in the morning. Like, please don't try to figure out when you're exhausted.
Yeah. I mean, I am at my absolute worst when I'm exhausted.
Right. It's like Godzilla comes out. Like, you're not thinking clearly about anything.
I just get a little snappy and then I get a little cranky and then I get a little, yep. It's
And
not
everything is
productive.
the end of the world when I'm tired.
Oh God. I love this. Okay. Here's my biggest one that I absolutely have a lot of feelings about.
Whoa.
Um, don't sweat the small stuff.
I love that you said that because doesn't that sound sweet? You're like, yeah, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Don't sweat the small stuff. I'm like, where do you think the big stuff comes from? Come on, right?
Yeah, it's
Are
that
we?
piling on. It's the same behavior repeated over and over again.
Yeah. And when I'm talking small stuff, I'm like, do you really want to be upset about the way he loads the toilet paper for 20 years? I mean, imagine the resentment that's going to form when every time you go to the bathroom, he either there's out of toilet paper or he loaded it the wrong way. And you're like, I could have said something about that when it was really small, when we very first moved in together. Or I can hold it in because I don't want to sweat the small stuff. And then 20 years later, I'm like, dang it, why the heck can't you figure out the right way to do the toilet paper? That makes no sense, right? We want to learn how to skillfully handle the seeds before they become weeds and they choke out all the generosity and love and compassion in the marriage.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather say something when I don't really have feelings about it I would rather, like we actually, a great example is we have to have the toilet seat closed in my house.
Yeah.
It is actually vital
Actually,
because,
because the dogs probably drink the water, right?
well, he's a little too small to get up there,
Oh.
but um, I have this weird thing where I accidentally drop things in the toilet and then I do not want to get them out. Like, I really don't. I stand there and I debate whether it's flushable.
Yeah.
And so I went to when we didn't live together, I went over to his place one time and I knocked his toothbrush in the toilet. And so then I had to go buy him a new toothbrush, and he wasn't home from work yet. So I had to go out and buy him a new toothbrush and like replace it. And then I was like, I'm so sorry. I've done this my entire life. It's usually like nail polish or something, but if it's open, like will accidentally drop something in. And eventually that will make you very upset with me. And also like, I don't want to deal with it myself. So can we just make a
That's a
concerted
great
effort to close the
example,
toilet?
right? In right at the beginning of the relationship, when it's not heated, when it's not like a $100 bill that you just dropped in the toilet, right? Like, yes, like whoever came up with "Don't sweat the small stuff," it's baffling to me because I'm like, you're right, that does sound sweet,
Yeah, but the
but
small
come
stuff
on,
piles up
yes, it does.
after,
What do you think
and
the big stuff? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from the small stuff.
yeah, and in my example, it will make both people very upset long term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't want to be criticized that I have this weird quirk that now the entire world knows about.
Yeah, you're going to start getting emails about that now.
If there's anyone else out there like me, please let me know I'm not alone.
Solidarity, sister. Yeah.
um, Learn to compromise.
Wow. I feel like you read my book because most people, I kid you not, when you ask an older couple, and this is like a habit of mine, whenever I see an old happy couple walking around, I'm like, what's your secret? And almost always they will say, learn how to compromise. And that was probably good advice a long time ago. There probably weren't that many options of how to do things. And you probably just like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. I'll give up this, you give up that, we'll meet in the middle. But the reality is, in today's modern marriage, there are so many different ways to solve problems, so
Yes.
many resources and options that compromise is very lazy. Basically, it's like, let's just meet in the middle. So you've got, perspective A and perspective B, and let's just meet in the middle somewhere. What I teach in the book is actually collaboration. And that means that you get curious again. You get curious, like, what is important to me about this decision? Whether you're talking about something as small as where to eat dinner or as big as how do we educate the kids? Where are we going to do for work? How many kids do we even have, right? I get curious. What is my perspective on this issue? What's important to me? What do I value or care about? And then I get curious about my partner. What is important to you? What do you value? What do you care about? What are my reservations about the things that you care about? And what are your reservations about mine? And we get all of that out on the table. And then we do research with ChatGPT and all the other millions of ways that we have to do research on certain topics. And then we come up with the best, something that takes into consideration the best of what I have to offer and the best of what you value. And we come up with something that neither of us could have come up with on our own. So, compromise, here's where a lot of people get this wrong. They think that the purpose of communication is to get the other person to agree, to see it their way, or do it their way. But that is not ideal. The best way to create a passionate, intimate, amazing, thriving, healthy marriage is to value each other's difference. It's to realize I'm seeing the front of the elephant and you're seeing the back of the elephant. And with all of that perspective, we have so much more to work with versus why can't you just do it the way I do it?
Yep. And I think within that too, there are times when like I don't really care. Like I don't want to do something, but like I don't really care. And then like I don't need to have my partner come 50% of the way on the stuff that I
Right,
don't
right,
really care
right.
about. Like not that I want to keep reminding people that I drop things in the toilet, but you know, Philippe didn't really care about having the toilet like lid open.
Right.
And so he just did the thing that I requested.
Yeah. Can you
And
imagine like him being like, well, I'll do that 50% of the time?
or like, how about we just move everything away from the toilet and you make a concerted effort not to carry anything near the toilet?
Right. Right. So that's important information. If he's like, you know what, I don't care. It's just as easy for me to put the whole lid down than it is for me to put the, part where so you're not falling in the toilet in the middle of the night. I'll just, make sure that the toilet's closed, right? Yeah, that's a collaboration that's way more important than like you said, like how about you just change? Or, or how about 50% of the time I'll put the toilet seat down there, then we've compromised and nobody actually gets what they want, right? I mean, it's silly, but the word compromise, if you actually look it up in the dictionary, it's like compromise means it's not good, like it's been compromised, like something is bad about this. And I'm like, that is very, very true. Because if you're just willy-nilly giving up stuff, that creates a lot of scorekeeping and a lot of resentment. And over time, you're like, this isn't working.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you
And when it's,
both
sorry.
put in, yeah, but I'm saying if you collaborate, if you both put in what you value, at the very least, you're gaining a better understanding of yourself and your partner, right? And most people, they just don't take the time to do that. And that's what creates intimacy and passion. It's valuing and respecting each other's differences and being able to work within, my strengths and your strengths and my weaknesses and your weaknesses and the things that we both find important. And let's come up with solutions that are like, I'm not doing this life alone. I get like you, like, and all of what you bring to the table too. So let's work with that, right? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I like this because it honors both people's perspectives. It honors both people's skill sets because I have a very different skill set than my husband. Like
Ah,
very different. He when we first started dating, he couldn't even take a picture to save his life.
right. Yeah.
And we just like, and I'm terrible at math and he does math all day. It's, we all have different skills and
Mm.
it actually like, and as to your point, it makes the marriage stronger and the relationship stronger by leveraging those things to work together so that you can really see the value that the other person is bringing in and you are able to give value too. Because you want to be able to provide for each other in some whatever capacity that looks like for you.
Yeah.
um
I have a couple I'm working with right now. And just like to your point, they're if they combine their separate skill sets, so strong, right? But when they try to do it on their own, like he's really good at budgeting and she's really good at just making more money. And so her solution is like, well, let's just make more money. And he's like, well, let's stay within the budget, right? And so when they put that together, they have a really strong foundation for successful business. But if she were to do it on her own or he were to do it on their own, there's kind of a cap. Like, you can only make so much more money if you're like destroying the budget all the time. But if you're, not thinking, I was going to say enthusiastically, optimistically, and you're just like keeping a cap on the budget, both of those things hamper down like where you can get to. But if you combine the two, then you come up with a solution that's greater than either of them could have on their own, right? And so, yeah, collaborating and using each other's skill sets is one of the greatest reasons why we get married. But a healthy, thriving marriage makes room for both people to grow, to become the best versions of themselves, but also to make mistakes and get it wrong sometimes, right? That's the beauty of combining your lives is actually making room for both of you to thrive.
yeah, love that. What are some of your favorite bad advice or myths? I'm excited to hear what yours are.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of them, but I really like this idea that happily ever after doesn't exist, right? Like, I think that, there's the divorce rate is high enough, marital satisfaction is low enough that you read this idea of happily ever after, and you're like, oh yeah, that's just in fairy tales. But I can assure you that happily ever after does in fact exist, but here's the caveat, it won't happen on accident. You've got to
Mhm.
put some effort in. You've got to learn the skill sets, right? So like for you, when you say you don't love to plan, it's like, a logistical nightmare for you, right? It's a skill set. You can learn how to plan a big event, but you're going to be bad at it before you're good at it, right? Like you're going to fumble around with it. It's going to be clunky and awkward and uncomfortable at first when you're not good at it yet. But the more reps you put in, the more you practice and the more skills around it that you learn, you get better and better and better at it. And that's the beauty of marriage. We get married when we're relatively young, right? And we have a lot of growing to do, and our brain plasticity is still pretty malleable, and we can learn skills to communicate that. I wish they were taught when we were younger or in our families of origin, but most of the time they're not.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to live happily ever after, you decide that it's important, and then you learn how to do the skills that will give that to you. And, you can read books, you can listen to podcasts like this one, or you can get help from a coach like me. So there's all kinds of ways that you can get help and support in learning how to communicate well and
Yeah.
make a happily ever after.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree. And I also like that in that you're owning a lot of the internal work yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I mean, because, one of the things that I always remind myself is the only thing that I actually have control of in this world is myself
I feel
and
like
my
you've read my book
reactions.
and listened to all my stuff. You're like, woo, yes, very good. That's so true. And most people think that by complaining that they're going to control their partner. Like that's like the
Yes.
funny misconception. Everyone's like, well, if I complain enough about all the things that my spouse doesn't do correctly, they'll just figure it out. And as much as we would like to control them with our complaints, it's never going to work.
No, it's
Better
just
to
going to
learn
put a
how to
lot of
make
distance.
requests. Better to
Yep.
learn how to take responsibility of our own wants, desires, hopes, and dreams and make requests of our partner. Works a lot
Yeah.
better.
I agree. And giving them that grace too to
Mhm.
like make mistakes and not just beat them up about those mistakes, which I think is another big um, you know, I I try to react in a way that is appropriate to what my husband needs in when there's a mistake made and not what I need.
Mm.
So because like he won't respond well if I freak out about something, which is sometimes what I need to do. Like if he like, were to break a leg or something, my reaction would be to like freak out, which is not a mistake. Well, I guess technically it could be depending on how it happened. But if I were to freak out, he needs me to be calm and to
Mhm.
underreact in those situations. So instead, I use my problem solving skill set and I just go into, okay, how are we going to get out of the situation that we have now found ourselves in? Because if I shut him down, we're not going to be able to work together.
Mhm. Right, right. And what I think is so sad is you see these couples, older couples in restaurants and they're not talking to each other. And it's not because they've run out of things to talk about, I assure you. It's because when they try, they have a long list of things that they cannot talk about. And so that's why you see them and they can talk about the weather and they can talk about maybe fashion, but that's about it, right? And so, but you see these couples who like, there's lots of eye contact, they're super curious. It's because they've learned how to communicate well and they're curious and vulnerable over the lifetime. They've been able to create this beautiful relationship and everybody wants to know how that happens. And I'm telling you, It's creativity plus, I'm sorry, it's curiosity plus vulnerability equals creativity.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. That's such a great point. And it's so easy to kind of hide behind your phone too.
Mhm.
And in those situations where like the only things you can talk about are, the weather, local sports. What are the other cliches?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the through line of my book is if it creates lazy communication, it's bad advice. So you just brought up a great point. A lot of people struggle with technology and their phone, and obviously if your face is in your phone, you're not communicating very well. So if it helps you communicate, it is good. If it makes you communicate less or lazy or not at all, it is bad. And that's an easy litmus test for, are we doing this right or are we struggling? It's, are you communicating more or are you communicating less?
Beautifully said. I haven't read this book, but I feel like everyone should.
Yeah. Well, you were very intuitive. You did pick my favorites just like that.
Yes, I feel like I got an A.
Yes, you did. Star student. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this was such a fun conversation, Monica. I so appreciate you coming on here, sharing your expertise. And I will, of course, link out to your book and everything. But where can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So you can find a list of all of my free resources and how to work with me at my website, which is just my name, monicatanner.com.
Beautiful. And we will, of course, link out in our show notes, our description of this episode and everything. And if you would like to join me on The Wedding Dish, you can apply at theweddingdishpodcast.com. You can find our guest application and follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Dish Podcast. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, or follow, rate, and review. It really helps us get discovered and get in front of a larger audience. And Monica, again, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. I'm so grateful you joined me on The Wedding Dish today.
Thank you, Sarah.
Until next time, cheers.